welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. We are back for day 4, the final day of our welcome fall wall hanging. So we've already done the bulk of the wall hanging. Today we're just going to be adding on the final little row of border and the hanging tabs so that we can get this thing up on the wall and welcome the fall properly. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited to have this all wrapped up. It's nice to have a project done in 4 days. So I'm really delighted with the way this worked out. Nice and quick, and it's small and lots of fun. Thank you so much for everybody who has been here along with us so far. And if you're just kind of coming in on the project, we'll make sure that we've got the links for the previous days in the description box down below. Plus we've got a little welcome fall wall hanging tutorial playlist put together now, so you can find that later and catch up if you need to. None of these videos are going anywhere, so you can pop back in at any time and make it again if you want to. Especially if you want to make a different little symbol in the bottom. We've got a couple of people who have done different ones. I did a maple leaf in my original one. That's this right here. I really like that. So I've got 3 leaves in the bottom of this one. The family members picked the acorn, so we did the acorn here. And we can also do, you know, other little things. We've got tons of Fair Isle style patterns and graphs from last year. We've got a pumpkin, we've got an apple, we've got lots of nice fallish ones. So there's plenty to choose from if you've collected them already, or if you are interested in making one but you want to put in a different graph. The pattern for the wall hanging comes with substitution instructions. So if you want to be able to put in another image, we explain how to do that in a substitution instruction file that comes with that wall hanging project package. It's a bit of a bundle. There's four different files included in it, so it's quite large. It's in our Etsy shop. It's on sale today, last day of the sneaky sale. This and all of our Fair Isle style patterns are on sneaky sale today, and it's the last day of the thing. Tomorrow we're into Calendar Blanket Friday, and our Granny's Magical Cupboard series continues tomorrow with number 9, because we're in September. Unbelievably very busy week around here. All right, so let's get some thank yous out of the way before we start stitching. I want to thank a handful of people here. Let me see. Goodness me. We had Nicole is back to Vicuña. Thank you so much. A re-welcome to Nicole. A thank you to Joanna, who upgraded to Merino. Thank you so much, Joanna. We've also got Victoria, who gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Victoria. And goodness me, Miss Jersey won it. Congratulations. And Nico. Nico has gifted a membership too. Thank you so much, Nico. And Letitia has won it. Congratulations, Letitia. Welcome to the family. Did I miss anything, Mr. InStitches? I don't think so. Okay, great. I have my cup of tea. I've got my yarn, scissors, yarn needle, same hook from yesterday, 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. We've got our almost completed wall hangings. I'm using wool, size 4 medium weight, but wool for this one. I used acrylic for my other one. Both make great choices for this particular project. I've got more of my color A, which is my background color. I'm going to be making my hanging tabs out of that. And I really loved this rich mulberry that I did the fall letters in. So I'm going to use this for my final row of the border. So we're on border row number 2. It's the finishing row for the little wall hanging. We're going to start with that. Then we're going to do the tabs. Once again, if you want to get doweling, like a proper doweling to hang this on, you can certainly do that. And the tabs let you take it off, so you can reuse the doweling for different sized or different wall hangings if you want to have one doweling on the wall that you interchange with wall hangings. We're definitely going to be doing some more in this size because this is such a fun size. But I just grabbed a stick from the backyard. I like that kind of fallish, rustic feel. Oh, I'm having an English breakfast tea this morning. I do love Earl Grey, but I like a good English breakfast too, nice and deep. And yes, I keep the tea bag in it. All right, I'm going to grab my yarn. I'm going to grab my hook. And I'm also going to say another hello to Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Victoria's been a member for 9 months. Thank you so much, Victoria, with the membership milestone. She says, Jayda and Mr. InStitches, so happy I found your site. I think that's site. It's just hidden behind a little picture here on my thing. Thank you for everything you do and for the yarn family. Well, thank you. Yes, our yarn family is pretty awesome. I have to say, I love this group.
You can hide that heart.
Can I hide it?
Yeah, if you go to the top right where the 3 dots are.
Yes.
Click on that and then click on reactions to turn it off.
click on reactions, no, I don't. Well, maybe I'm in the wrong spot. Hang on. If I click on it, nope. No, I don't think I can. Technological. I only have the 3 dots on you. So this little 3 dots. Is that the
scroll up? You should have a 3 dots.
That's the only 3 dots I've got. Well, that's, and then I get this.
No, that's different.
Yeah.
That's funny.
No, I don't have it here.
Oh.
That's probably the difference between the mobile software and the computer software. Again.
All right. Well, we tried.
We tried. Okay. We are starting with border row 2 today. We're going to take whatever color you want. I recommend using one of the colors that you really like from the body of your wall hanging and pulling it out to the edge. I'm going to be using my mulberry. So I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. If you're working left-handed, I recommend that you start over here on the far left stitch across the top, right next to that chain 2 corner. If you're working right-handed, the other side over here, we're going to start in the top of this stitch right next to the chain 2 corner. So lefties, you can work this way, and righties, you can work this way, and it doesn't really change the outcome. But we want to make sure that you've got the correct side of your wall hanging facing up, so it's the side that you can read the words welcome fall on. You know that's the right side. We're going to take our yarn and we're going to join it with a slip stitch right here in that stitch right next to the chain 2 corner, right-handed, left-handed, this one over here. And the instructions are the same. Here we go. Joining with a slip stitch. We are going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the same stitch. So just a little picot or a little bump of color right there. Into the next 2 stitches, we're going to single crochet. I'm going to work over top of my little tail because why not? It's one less thing to have to weave in later. So a little slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch in the same stitch to start. Gives you a little bit of bump of color, and then a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And this is what we do all the way across and essentially all the way around. Into the next stitch, we slip stitch, chain 3, and slip stitch into the same stitch. So slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, all into the same stitch. I'm going to get my hook out of the way here. So if you pull up on that, that's all done in the same stitch. Slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, little picot. And then into each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet once. 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet. Easy peasy. So just little bumps of color all the way along. If, like I did with my first one here, you're using a variegated or a self-striping color, it's going to look really cute. It's going to look like, you know those old-fashioned theater signs that had the lights that went around and around them? That's what that reminds me of. That it kind of, the self-striping or variegated color gives it momentum. There's like movement if you do that around the edge. So I really like how that looked, but I had used it in my fall. But I really also like this mulberry color. So this is going to create a little frame for the wall hanging. So either way you go, it's going to look good. Slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch into the next stitch. So that's all into the same stitch, and then single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And that is what we're going to do all the way across until we get to the chain 2 corner. So a little picot and then a single crochet in each of the next stitch. Picots, or the little bump, is a slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, all done into the same stitch. So very simple, very small, very, you know, easy, tidy little way to pull a bit of color into the edge of your wall hanging and just finish it off. I like a little bit of activity, a little bit of interest in my border. But I don't want it to be too overpowering. I don't want it to be sort of to steal away from the fun and interest of the imagery that's in the wall hanging itself. Yes, I am working on curtains for the kitchen. That is coming soon. Well, soonish, I hope. I need kitchen curtains for my kitchen window over the sink. So I am working on that. I'm just...
Can I say I put up the rod like 6 months ago?
Yes, actually possibly last year.
I'm still waiting for those curtains.
Yeah, we have the rod. I just need to put the curtains in. So yes, that is definitely coming soon. Soonish. Hopefully this year. This year is quickly disappearing. When you get across to the edge, so we've got that little repeating pattern all the way across. The last stitch before the corner, whether you're working right or left-handed, there'll be one stitch left before your chain 2 corner. You're going to finish with a little picot, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch. So the top of your wall hanging begins with a picot right next to the corner. You've got 2 single crochets, picot, single crochet, picot, blah, 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 all the way across, and it ends with a little picot right before the chain 2 corner, so it's even. And your corners are always going to be 3 single crochet work into the chain 2 space. So nothing fancy, just single crochet into the chain 2 corner 3 times. That just rounds off the corner. So you've just got these nice little rounded corners. Again, nice low profile, really simple, not stealing any attention away from sort of the bulk of what's in the actual wall hanging. Once you've finished with the chain or the single crochets, so 3 of them in your chain 2 corner space, you're going to continue with this pattern all the way down the edge. So we've worked 3 single crochets. Now we're going to start with another little picot. So we're going to find the next stitch. It will be the chain 2 that began the border row. So make sure you kind of get your hook through the top of it. And then you're going to work a slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch into it. So slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch into the top of that chain 2, and then right away into the very next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, and there we go. So single crochet into 3 times into the corner, into the very next stitch, which will be the chain 2 that began border row number 1. You're going to put that little slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, and then single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and we're back on track. Slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, single crochet, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, single crochet, all the way down the side. Easy peasy.
Ellen would like to know if we have a raglan sweater pattern.
A raglan sweater pattern. No. That raglan sweaters are the type that have the sleeves that kind of fall away from the neck, if I am not mistaken. And we do not have one like that. We would like to do more sweater patterns. I'm always interested in making clothes, but we're very cognizant of making patterns and tutorials here that everybody can use. So I like to be able to make them that are measurement based as opposed to a specific stitch pattern based, so that people can make them to fit themselves or anybody else in the family. And that takes a little bit of extra doing. So do have some more wearables on the way. Hopefully we'll get a few more done for this for the fall. I love having a new cardigan or a new sweater or something to wear in the fall. I can wear it outside before I have to cover everything up with a giant heavy winter coat. Hello, Carrie. Carrie's in the house. Carrie has just gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Carrie. And congratulations to Catherine, who has won it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Again. So the last little bit of work on our wall hanging is just this little border row and then the tabs. So the tabs, we've done tabs similar to the ones that we're going to make today. If you made the other, the spring wall hanging with us, that sort of folky, oh goodness me, why can't I think of what we called it? The garden wall hanging. If you made the garden wall hanging along with us this past spring, then you'll recognize the tab concept that we're going to put across the top. We're just making fewer of them today. And we're going to sort of do a slight variation on joining them just because this is a much smaller little border edge. Not a big change, but just a small one. You are finishing the side of your wall hanging with a little picot followed by a single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. And then you're already going to be arriving at that chain 2 corner. So you're going to work 3 single crochet into the space. Easy peasy. So you finish with a picot, a single crochet, and then 3 single crochet into the corner. And then rotate to work across the bottom. So you're going to do the same thing across the bottom. You're going to start with a picot, single crochet, picot, single crochet, picot, all the way across. And the bottom edge, just like the top, will also end with a picot just before the chain 2 space. So you'll start with a picot, you'll end with a picot. There's a ding. Oh my goodness. Hello, Sylvia. Sylvia is a member, has been for 10 months. Thank you so much, Sylvia. With a membership milestone, says, heading out to the beach to escape from this heat wave we are having in Southern California. The beach. That's a great idea. In fact, I love going to the beach in September. September's still the summer, and it is just glorious in so many places. Definitely go to the beach if you can. I would like to do that. I would like to get out to the beach. Enjoy the beach, Sylvia. That sounds fantastic. And Lorraine. Hello, Lorraine. I have tripping over my own tongue here. Lorraine has been a member for 45 months. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Lorraine with a membership milestone says, Jayda and Mr. InStitches, love being part of this family. Thank you. We love having you as part of this family. I love seeing the membership milestones. That makes me really happy. This is one of those simple little border rows that you don't really have to think too much about. You kind of just get the pattern of it, or the rhythm, I suppose, of it into your fingers, and you just kind of zip along at it. It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 waltz. And like I said, just as it did across the top of your wall hanging, you're going to finish working across the bottom with a picot or a slip stitch, chain 3 slip stitch in the last stitch before the corner. Single crochet into the corner space 3 times, so all 4 of those corner spaces get the same treatment, just 3 simple single crochets. And then you're ready to work up the other side, but we want it to match over here. So on this side, we finished with a picot and then single crochet before we got to the corner. So we want it to look the same way on the other side. So before you leave corner number 3, so you finished across the bottom, you work 3 single crochet into that corner space. You're going to start your second side. Doesn't matter whether you're working left or right, it's the same thing. Start working up your second side with a single crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. And then you can start that little pattern again. Slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch to create a little picot, and then single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And that way, I'm going to turn it right side up here. That way it will match. So you're going to have your little picots sitting exactly opposite each other. And then that just sort of folds into these nice little single crochets, your little rounded corners. Your bottom will completely match your top, and everything will be balanced. And that's what we're going for. And then it's the home stretch. You can just continue to repeat that little pattern all the way up. You'll end with a single crochet, and then 1 more picot right before you get to the corner space. And that will look the same as it does across on the other side. Sylvia's going to grab some sun for us. I appreciate that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, we are working on the fourth and final day of our Welcome Fall wall hanging. So it's border row number 2 today. It's just this simple little colorful picot-esque pattern around the corners for our final row of the border, and then we're going to add some tabs so that we can hang it up on a stick or a piece of doweling, whatever you fancy. The doweling or the stick you select doesn't have to be any longer than, shouldn't be any longer, I should say, than 20 inches or about 45 centimeters or so. But it can be a little shorter too. I literally grabbed a stick that I liked the look of out of the backyard. Crochet Crazy! Hello! We're all crochet crazy here. Crochet Crazy's been a member for 13 months. Goodness me, thank you so much. With a membership milestone, says, I had my baby at the end of July. Congratulations, holy cow! So we're all loving all of these live streams this week. I guess I'm getting her started in crochet really early. Hey, you gotta start them early. It'll be part of her lexicon, all these different little stitch techniques and lingo. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Congratulations. It's nice to relax after such a gigantic event like that with some familiarity, a little bit of craftiness, and this absolutely fantastic community that we have here. All right, I'm coming up on the end. So I'm working my last 2 single crochets. That leaves me with 1 stitch left before the chain 2 space all the way up at the top. That gives me just enough to slip in 1 more picot, slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch, and then that gives me the chain 2 space. I'm going to work 3 single crochets in there just to round out that corner. And that brings me right back to the start. I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch that I joined in and fasten off. I'm going to snip my yarn. And I'm going to weave this in across the back. So I'm going to flip it over, just weave it in across the back here. And we'll be moving on to the tabs. Now you can use whatever color you want for your hanging tabs. I'm going to be using the color A, that is the background color that I used for much of my wall hanging. I just feel that they kind of blend in a little bit. They are not too, you could use the same color that you used for your border row number 2, of course, or any color really, but I just feel like I had enough left of my A color and I'm kind of eager to not totally use it up, but I just thought it blends in nicely with the rest of the wall hanging if I do that. So that was my choice, but of course you can use whatever you like, whatever you think suits. And it's good for me to show you against these dark stitches for the purpose of making the hanging tabs, because it'll stand out, it'll be a little more obvious where to anchor your stitches, I should say. Okay, so there I am. I'm all woven in. That essentially is the wall hanging itself complete. It is so cute. Let's just give it a quick little measure here. So from one side to the other, it's from picot to picot, let's say it's 14 inches almost exactly, or 35.5 centimeters. And from top to bottom, from little picot to little picot, it's 17.5 inches or 45 centimeters. So that's the final measurements of this little wall hanging. Now I haven't blocked it, but I don't think I'm going to have to. I used wool and it's a nice stiff kind of feeling fiber. So mine is, and it lays pretty flat. So I don't feel like I'm going to need to do any blocking here, but you could always do that if you felt like there was some sort of tight places, or maybe a couple of places where it was a little bit uneven at the top or along the sides. Feel free to do a little bit of light blocking, but you don't have to. And remember, when you're hanging it, as it hangs, it will kind of, it's not super heavy, but it will even itself out a little bit as it hangs there and as the weather blows in and out. So humidity will help a piece hang over time as well, because it kind of loosens up the threads, and gravity will do the rest. So something to keep in mind. All right, let's get those tabs ready to go. I'm going to grab my original color, which is this my nice white color. And we're going to be putting in 4 hanging tabs. You can do more if you want, make them thinner. You can use fewer and make them thicker if you want. I like 4. I like the way they kind of looked evenly distributed across the top. I recommend starting on the same side of the wall hanging that you started your border on. So if you're right-handed, I would recommend starting on the top right-hand side. If you're lefties, over here on the top left-hand side. It just makes it a little bit easier. We're going to start with a slip stitch. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook, and I'm looking at the front top. So this is the right side of my wall hanging. This is the top of my wall hanging. I'm going to turn it down. So now I'm looking at the back top of my wall hanging, but it's turned towards me. So everybody understands that. So this is the right side. It's the top of the wall hanging. I turn it down, and now I'm looking at the top wrong side, but it's curled towards me. So this is where we want to build our tabs, along the top edge. Goodness me, Carlene, thank you so much for picking up a pattern. That tells me I should have a sip of tea. Ooh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. And it's still warm. Yum, yum. All right. We are going to join our yarn underneath. So where we did the last row of border, that's border row 2, we want to make sure that we anchor beyond it. So we are going to be anchoring our yarn in the edge of what was border row number 1. So this is another reason I was eager to use a very different color for border row 2, so you can clearly see where I'm putting in my stitches. We're going to anchor, there are these little loops that run along the tops of the stitches from border row 1, and you're going to anchor your yarn in there. So you can use the loop that sits sideways, or you can use the loop that sits sort of perpendicular, I should say vertical, no, perpendicular? Yeah, the one that sits horizontally. The first one might be a little tight because it's the stitch right close to the corner, but you basically just want to get your hook in underneath that, and that's where you're going to anchor your first stitch. So we're going to join with a slip stitch. It's anchored on the back of the wall hanging, so once I anchor it, you can see that this is the front, and you can't see the stitch on the back. I've anchored it now to that loop in the top stitch right next to the corner of what was border row number 1. I'm not touching border row number 2 stitches. So these are all going to happen underneath border row number 2. Chain 3. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet. And now we want to work in 4 more stitches, double crochets, using these top loops across here. So this might, take a little bit of doing. You just sort of use your hook to actually get your hook in underneath it if it's a bit tight. Otherwise, just sort of slide your hook underneath there. It's a good place to anchor a stitch. There we go. That's the second double crochet. I'm also going to work over top of that short tail because why not? Here's my next loop. So you see there's these little loops on top of each of those stitches from border row 2. I'm grabbing one of those loops right there. Double crochet. And once again, you can't see it from the right side. So this is a nice, neat and tidy way to anchor our stitches. It won't show through to the front. And there's no sewing required. So grab another loop across the top of the next stitch. There we go. Oops. And one more. So these are just 5 stitches across. I'm going to anchor that one right there. Just grabbing a loop on the back of a stitch. There we go. So there's a chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. And we've made a double crochet in each of the top of the next 4 stitches. And you're just grabbing a loop. Just grabbing a loop at the top of those stitches from border row number 1. So you can clearly see that there. And now easy peasy, chain 2 and turn. Double crochet in each stitch all the way back, remembering that the chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and that's using that first stitch. So you're just looking for the next stitch to double crochet into. And then you're going to double crochet once you get all the way across into the top of what was the chain 3, because that counts as a stitch as well. So you'll have 5 stitches in that row. You're going to do this for 8 rows total. So chain 2, turn, double crochet in each stitch across. You'll have 5 stitches. The last stitch is always anchored in the top of what was the turning chains. And this is the part of the tab that goes nice and quick. So that's 3 rows already, chain 2. And by the time it gets a little bit longer, this is what I do. I don't even turn the whole project, I just turn the tab. And I double crochet in each of those stitches. Double crochet in the top of the chain 2, chain 2, and then I just twist it back. So I work one way, turn, 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 and that way I'm not flipping the whole wall hanging over and over and over again. Easy peasy. So I double crochet in each stitch, I double crochet in the top of the chain 2. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Chain 2, and instead of turning the whole thing, I just twist the tab. So I'm just double crocheting each stitch all the way back. And you can do that. The longer the tab gets, the easier it is to do that. Chain 2, just twist it back so you're looking across the top of this again. Double crochet in each stitch. Are we talking about sewing? Are we having a conversation about sewing that I'm not involved in?
I let everyone know I'm taking you sewing machine shopping.
Oh, yes. I am so excited. I can barely sit still. Chris is wondering what a serger is. A serger is the overlock system. So it's a machine that usually has 4 spools going, and it overcuts and overlocks your edges at the same time. So if you look on the inside of a piece of clothing and you see a hem and it's all stitched over the top and it's stitched, like there's straight stitching and then there's the stitching that runs across the 2 edges together, that's an overlock, or done by what's called a serger. That's how you serge an edge. I have one already. Chain 2, turn back, and this will be row 8 I'm completing. But I have a sewing machine from the 90s. It was the first sewing machine I ever got, and I love it, and it still works. It needs to be repaired though, but it's extremely basic. I got it as my first ever sewing machine, and it's been the sewing machine I've used ever since, so it's kind of time for a new one. It's old. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each tab is 8 rows of double crochet. You work back and forth and back and forth. And make sure you're always working your last stitch into the top of the chain 2, and that gives you a nice straight little edge on both sides. And now the magic. So this is how we turn this little strip of crochet fabric into a tab. Once again, we are looking at our wall hanging. So again, this little picot edge is going to lie flat over top of your tab. This is another nice reason that we're kind of building it onto the backs of the border row number 1 so that this row kind of sits free. This is the front. You can see that the tab sits in behind border row number 2. If we fold the whole thing forward so that we can see where we joined our tab, you're going to take your tab now, chain 1 at the end of row 8, just chain 1, and fold it away from you. So you're folding it in half away from you, and it's touching the back side of your wall hanging. So you take your tab, you fold it away from you so that it's touching the back of your wall hanging, and then we're going to slip stitch through the existing stitches. So we've got these stitches, these guys right here. I'm going to put my hook through the first stitch at the top And I'm going to get my hand out of the way. The stitches, so there's these nice, each stitch has 2 loops. The first one might be a little tight because it was a, I'll just use these guys right here. You want to grab the two loops at the base of the stitch from row 1 of the tab. So slip your hook through the first stitch of row 8, the loops of the bottom of the stitch of row 1, and we're going to slip stitch. And this is just how we're going to join the whole thing together. So slip your hook through the first stitch or the next stitch in row 8, reach all the way down to the loops on the back of the stitch of row 1. So you can see what I'm doing there. So there's stitch number 2 in row 8, the loops on the back of the bottom of the stitch of stitch number 2 on row 1, and then you're going to slip stitch. And you're going to do that all the way across. And that's how we seam it together. No sewing required. I heard the ding. I see Nico zipping in from the left, our gifting ninja. Gifting another membership. Thank you so much, Nico. Goodness gracious. And congratulations, Karen. Karen has won it. Welcome back to the family, Karen. Thank you, Nico. 5 slip stitches in total. So you're just kind of slipping your hook underneath the loops on the back of the bottom of the stitch from row 1. It does not have to be tidy. This is how we make a nice solid seam without having to do any sewing. And the whole thing is on the back. So once you're finished, you've got 5 slip stitches. You can sort of see them there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 neat and tidy slip stitches. And that is it. You can fasten off. And I do recommend weaving in your tail. I'm just going to turn it around. You can weave it in on the backs of the stitches of the wall hanging. You could weave it in across the back of the stitches on the tab. It's entirely up to you, but I do recommend that you weave it in underneath stitches of the same color. So if you used a different color for your tabs, weave that tail in back and forth across the same stitches in your tab just to keep the same color with the same color. But I've used sort of A all over the place, so I'm just going to weave them in back here on the backs of some of these stitches along the wall hanging, because why not? There we go. All right, and that is tab number 1. Nice and sturdy. It's anchored with a seam, and the thickness of it is at the back. When you flip it forward, it doesn't interfere with border row number 2. And that's 1 of 4 tabs. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, we're going to do tab number 2 on the other side. So I recommend doing your first 2 tabs at the edges so that there are 5 stitches across. This first one is anchored on the back of the first stitch. So this next one is going to be anchored 5 stitches away from the corner on the other side. So you roll back the top. You count, here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where we're going to anchor it. I'm going to anchor it in the top of that stitch. So a little loop across the top of the stitch, the 5th stitch back from the corner, and it's row 1 of the border, not row 2. I'm going to anchor it with a slip stitch. Chain 3, that'll count as a double crochet, and then I'm going to double crochet into loops across those stitches, and that there'll be 5 stitches in total. So I'm just getting my hook underneath a loop from one of the stitches of row 1 of the border, and there's that last one. I'm just going to use this loop right here. There we go. So all 5 of those stitches are now anchored on the back of the wall hanging, up at the top, all into the top back loops of the stitches from row 1 of the border. So once again, if you place it down, you can't see any of it showing through to the front. It doesn't interfere with border row number 2, which is that little picot border. And once you have all 5 of those stitches, chain 2, turn, and of course when it's small, you might have to turn your whole wall hanging, double crochet all the way back, you'll still have 5 stitches. Make sure that last stitch is anchored in the top of the turning chains. Chain 2 and turn. And I feel like once I get the 3rd row in, I can just start twisting the tab as opposed to turning the entire project. There we go. Chain 2, turn, and yes, I'm going to just twist the tab so that I can work back across the top of it. The longer that bit of crochet gets, the easier this part is, and it just saves you a little bit of time and trial twisting your entire project back and forth. Chain 2, and then just make sure that you like twist it back the other way. 8 rows in total. That includes that foundation row. 8 rows in total, and then we turn it into a tab. That's 6 rows in total. This is row 7. And this is row 8. Chain 1 at the end of row 8, and remember, you are, so we fold it forward, we're looking at the back, this is the back top of the wall hanging. You are folding your little hanger away from you so that the top of it matches up with the back. So you're not folding it forward towards your border row number 2. You're folding it away from you towards the bottom of those foundation stitches that you anchored. And then you're just going to slip your hook through the first stitch along row 8, grab the bottom loops of the first stitch that you joined your yarn with, chain 3, and then slip stitch through everything, and that creates the seam. It also keeps the bulk on the back. And it makes a nice sturdy little tab. It's not going to come apart. It can handle the weight of your wall hanging. There we go. And this is the turning chains. That's the last stitch there. Fasten off. I like to pull back on it a little bit. And then weave in your tails. I've got this little tail left to sort of weave in, so I'll just do this one here. Get it out of the way. There we go. And I'll bring this down this side and weave it in back here. You can, of course, leave all of your tails to weave in once you've done everything, but I just feel like if I weave them in as I go, then there's less kind of finishing work to do when I actually am finished. There we go. So that's tab number 2. Always turn it back to the front so you're looking at the right side. You've got 2 little tabs up now, one on one side, one on the other, and now we're going to evenly space 2 in the middle. So I go, oh look, this is about this width of my 2 fingers, and then I eyeball it like this. So you can count, make sure that you've got the same number of stitches in between, you know, give or take one if you want, but it's also just simple to eyeball it. And that looks pretty even to me, which means I'm going to start one back here. So in the back of this stitch about here, I feel like that's nice and even. And just eyeball it. It'll be perfectly fine. So I'm going to start, let's see, how many did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Maybe I'll back it up one. There. Join with a slip stitch, chain 3, and then double crochet across the next 4 stitches. Again, I'm using the top loops. I'm anchoring it. A knitting needle? Like a big fat one? Yes, that would look adorable. Oh, I love that idea. I think you can get those.
Yeah, I've seen them. You can make one too.
Yeah, you could make one. You could get a piece, well, that'd be a cute video. Get a piece of doweling, shave down the end to make it look like a knitting needle, and then get some cute wooden block to glue on the end.
Block at the end. Very simplistic.
That'd be adorable.
We're being requested to make a how to send a photo via Etsy tutorial.
Oh, that sounds like a Mr. InStitches video.
Yeah, so maybe we'll put one together for Mr. InStitches.
In the next couple of days? That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, that would be handy. Gee, now I want to make a giant knitting needle.
The Jayda light bulb.
I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here picturing a giant knitting needle, and
Doesn't that look adorable?
I love that idea, and I think it would be so much fun to make one.
I think we have the raw materials to do it.
I think we do.
Yeah.
I mean, I am by no stretch an excellent woodworker. I wouldn't even call myself a woodworker. I'm more like a rough wood manipulator, I guess. But I think that would be the concept of that would be pretty easy to put together into a little video, and I think that would be really fun. Charlie's going to make a giant crochet hook. You know what? If you're any good at carving, then I feel like making a big crochet hook would be relatively easy or easier than trying to make an actual small usable crochet hook. My father-in-law made me a crochet hook. And it's quite sturdy, and I still don't really understand how he did it. All right, that's an 8. I already got to 8 rows. I don't need all those chains. I just need to chain 1. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 rows. So I want to, whoops, sorry everybody. I want to fold this away from myself. So I'm looking at the back. I'm going to fold it away from myself towards the back, and then I'm going to slip stitch through each set of stitches along the top of row 8 and the bottom loops of each stitch of row 1. And that will be my third little tab. 1, there's number 2. Let me get those bottom loops. It's a little tight, but that's okay. In fact, that's probably a good thing. Yep, I want to make a giant knitting needle now. Great. Thanks, everybody. I'm already making it in my brain. We've got those chisels.
Yeah, we have everything to do it. Unless you wanted to make it really fancy, you'd need what's that rotator? We don't have one of those. The thing that spins.
The thing that spins. The The lathe?
The lathe. We don't have a lathe.
We do not have a lathe.
But we have everything else. I think we have some leftover doweling. I have to check.
Yeah, I think we've got some doweling. I know we've got like a...
If we have leftover doweling, then we can very easily make it with what we currently have.
Yeah. I want to do that because I think that would be the cutest thing.
And then we could even put like the little size, like you know how they stamp the size?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll actually measure it and put the actual size on it. That's a great idea. All right, so I'm just weaving in the tail on tab number 3, and then I'm going to start tab number 4 in exactly the same way. So I always like to flip it back over so that I'm looking at the front. I know that I need to bend it towards me. Nicole! Nicole has gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Nicole. Goodness me. Nicole has been popping up in the chat quite a bit today. And congratulations to Mary. Mary has won it. Congratulations, Mary. Welcome to the family. Charlie's going to go stick shopping in the woods. I will be doing that myself. I think that...
You should go stick shopping.
That's... Stick shop, and I mean, what's more satisfying than finding a good stick? I don't think you have to be a dog to really appreciate a good stick. All right, and right in between these two is where I'm going to basically put the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That looks good to me. I'm going to just anchor this. Same thing, right there in that top loop. Chain 3. Goodness, there we go. And double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, again grabbing the top loops, and it doesn't matter which top loop, just grab a top loop. Use the actual hook of your crochet hook if you have to get in there. Come here, you. There we go. And one more. All right, there they all are, all 5 of them anchored neatly. I'd say that's fairly evenly distributed. Chain 2. I gotta turn the whole thing a little bit. I'll just twist it. Double crochet back across, and 8 rows in total. Here I go. I guess I guess if you have a dog and a cat, you could presumably see the cat run off with your yarn for this project and the dog run off with your stick for this project, and you'll be trying to find all of it.
Read Krista's comment.
We have we have a lot of downed sticks in the woods, so I kind of go looking for those, and then I want to sort of trim it up a little neatly, just to kind of get some of the little the knots off them, I guess. But I kind of like the way this sort of it doesn't want to slide, so that once I position this, it's not going to move around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more row. Twist it this way. And that is the last stitch. Chain 1. And now I'm going to fold it towards me, the whole project. Take the tab, fold it away from me, and I'm going to slip stitch through this stitch and the bottom of the other stitch to make that neat and tidy little slip stitch join. That first stitch is always a little tight. There we go. So 2 bottom loops. And the last one.
You want to tell everyone about, we're talking about, what is it with pets and crochet and yarn? Like they're obsessed over it. You want to tell them about the Luna story?
Oh my gosh. So my mother-in-law, Mama InStitches, made this absolutely gorgeous throw blanket out of this really nice merino wool she got. So this is like hand-dyed, hand-spun, sock weight merino wool. It's like the finest of the finest. And she made this beautiful, great big throw blanket out of it. Nothing fancy. She just used the typical shell stitch, but she just let the yarn itself do the talking. Gorgeous throw. She has a really pretty couch. So she has this one really fancy piece of furniture that she displays her very fancy throw on. And of course the cat's like, oh, perfect. You know, I'll just make myself a comfortable bed right here on the most expensive throw on the most expensive piece of furniture. And you're like, how do you know? Why aren't you on the bed? Or why aren't you over there on the floor in your basket or the billion other little beds we've given you, you silly little furball? No, I want to be right here on Mom's most expensive thing. And she got a photo of it, so that's even better. All right, weaving in the tail. I'm going to just turn this around here. That is all 4 tabs. I'm just going to weave in this final tail, and that is the Welcome Fall wall hanging complete. I want to remind everybody that you can share photos with us at the Etsy shop by going to the Etsy shop, click on the link that Mr. InStitches has included in the live chat and also in the description box. Just scroll down the page until you find something that says contact seller or message buyer. It depends on the software you're on. Click on that or tap on it and it will open up a message box for you. And in that message box, if you're on the computer, will be a little image in that message box. It looks like a landscape painting. You click on that, you can attach or take a photo. And if you're on a mobile device, just look for the little camera icon, probably somewhere near the bottom of your screen. Click on that, it'll let you take or upload a photo. And that's how you send photos to us. And we are delighted to share them with the rest of the community. I've got a couple more finished wall hangings all ready to share with you guys after the stream today. And of course, a little later on today, we're going to have some more of the mesh granny squares from July, or I should say from August, as we lead up to tomorrow, because tomorrow is Granny's Magical Cupboard September Granny Square. Looking forward to that. It's been such a busy week around here, but look at this. In 4 days, we have ourselves a brand new adorable little wall hanging to hang on the wall. I've got this stick. You can also use a doweling. And then, of course, you just weave it through those tabs. I like the stick. Stick is very rough. If you get a stick from outside, you might want to take the sandpaper to it, or just be careful as you put it on.
It looks good rough.
I like that rustic kind of feel because this is a fall wall hanging, and because I used wool, I feel like it really kind of suits. But you know, there's bark on here, so I want to be somewhat careful as I put it on. There we go. I'm going to do all this at the craft table so that if I knock down any little bits of bark on the table, I can clean it up easy peasy. See, there's a little bit of bark here. I'll just get that with a dust buster later. Does anybody still use a dust buster? I love my dust buster. All right, and there we go. Ready to hang. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, I think that is so darn cute. And I like the stick. The stick just sells it for me. Now, a nice, neat piece of doweling or this knitting needle that I'm going to make. I'm going to make a knitting needle. stay tuned for that information. But I think this looks so cute, and it's easy to hang. And of course, if I want to take it off and change out the doweling with a different stick, I can do that. And if I really love this stick, I might, sand it down. I can put different wall hangings in place. And of course, when you're done with the fall wall hanging, you take it off the doweling, you fold it flat, and you can tuck it away in a drawer or a closet or on a shelf or in a bin. So this is one of my favorite ways to add a little bit of seasonal decor to the house, especially to a wall that might be a bit, difficult to decorate otherwise. It's like simple art that then folds up and goes away. And then when you bring it out the next year, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm so happy to see that again. So that is the Welcome Fall wall hanging with the acorn. Again, here's my original Welcome Fall. That one was done in acrylic, and I had the maple leaf in the bottom of that. The pattern is in our Etsy shop. It is going to be on sale for the rest of today. It includes the original full graph written pattern instructions for left and right-handed. It also includes a file on substitution directions if you want to change out the little image, plus a special graph for the acorn and our pumpkin. And it includes the acorn Fair Isle style complete pattern and the pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern Fair Isle style complete pattern. So 4 big listings in that pattern bundle. A humongous thank you to everybody who has picked it up. We really appreciate the support of the show. A gigantic thank you to our members, for our gifting ninjas sending out the gifted memberships today, and to all of you who are here and hanging out with us and just being an absolutely fantastic part of this community. You guys make this so much fun. I love doing this. I feel like I'm sitting here crafting with my friends in real time. I absolutely love it. I hope you guys enjoyed making this Welcome Fall wall hanging along with us. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. Feel free to pop into our Etsy shop and ask. And failing that, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic afternoon. And we'll see you all tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. Eastern for Granny's Magical Cupboard Square number 9. Mr. InStitches, anything you'd like to add?
Quick question from Regina. To address that before we go.
Jayda, how could you tell me to reduce the welcome to a 20-stitch wall hanger? I would like to make them for the outdoor. From 40 to 20. It doesn't size down quite that easily. In order to get those letters in, so I found in order to get welcome to fit into, in order to get those letters, so WELCOME, I really did need all 40 stitches. Because each of these, like the widest letter is 5 stitches across, the shortest letter is 4 stitches across, and you kind of need that width or that number of stitches to get in the little extras. You could probably pare them down to 3 stitches each, but remember, you still want to stitch in between. I also like them being a little taller. So this is a 5 row high. But even if you pared it down to 3 stitches per letter wide, in order to get that, like the W needs to have a little tick in the middle, the M needs to have a little tick in the middle. Even if you kind of shoved it down to 3, you'd still need a stitch in between. So that would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 plus 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 at least on the edges. So you're still looking at about 30 stitches across. So I'm not sure you can squeeze welcome into 20 stitches unless you wanted to do WEL dash and then COME below it, welcome. But I don't know if that's going to have the same kind of feel to it. So I feel like welcome needs at least the 40 stitches in order to kind of look like a welcome. Because it's a big long word. Fall you can definitely shrink because the letters don't have to be that tall, and that's only 4 letters. But welcome, I think it's a long word, and like I said, even if you squeeze them into 3 stitches each, you'd still need spacers, so you're still looking at about 30 stitches. I hope that helps. We are going to continue to create some more graph and pattern-ish looking things for this. I've got a couple of ideas up my sleeve, so stay tuned. Because we'll be making hopefully soon, some fun little announcements in regards to that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys had fun with this. And we will see you guys here tomorrow. Anything else, Mr. InStitches? Okay, great. Have a great afternoon, guys. Stay